the vast tracts of land in East Hokkaido. Kushido wetland, rich natural forests, extensive grasslands, and the history of pioneers are features of this region. You may know there is a man-made larch forest extending beyond the horizon in the middle of East Hokkaido. The name is the Pilot Forest. It is an artificial larch forest area amounting to about 7,000 hectares, located in the middle reaches of the Bakambayushi River, which flows into Lake Akechi. It extends from Shibecha Town in Kawakami County to Akechi Town in Akechi County to the northeast of Kushido City. This 10,000-hectare national forest, including the surrounding marshland, is called the Pilot Forest. In 1956, the Forestry Agency decided to carry out the first attempt in Japan to plant as many as 25 million seedlings in 10 years over this wide area. Then why was it decided that the larch seedlings be planted on such a large scale? This area used to be densely forested. However, since the Meiji era, many accidental forest fires were repeated almost every year as a result of land clearing, and this area had been a complete wasteland for 50 long years. Firefighters couldn't do anything but wait for the fires to die down of their own, since the marsh prevented them from arriving on the site to extinguish the fires. Later, a special afforestation project was drawn up in 1956 after the critical damage from the Toyomaru typhoon in 1954. It was named the Pilot Forest in hope of the restoration of forests and the industrial development of the Kansen region. And then, in order to transform the wasteland of Kansen into a lush plain wealthy in forest resources, a number of studies and trials were carried out under the extremely harsh natural conditions of the area. First and foremost, this gigantic project had to begin with constructing a road through the marshland. The road was built with stakes driven into the ground, logs bound, and twigs spread on the surface. However, at times the road sank in the marshland and was swept away by the flood. Then it had to be rebuilt with plenty of logs again and again. Despite the continuous challenges, the construction of the current road was completed. As soon as the road construction was finished, the land clearing work on this site was carried out, followed by planting and weeding. It needed a great number of workers, especially in the troublesome weeding process. Initially, the human labor-dependent work was conducted, but labor-saving large forest machinery was introduced afterwards, which contributed greatly to the Pilot Forest project's success. A huge number of larch seedlings were grown at a nursery. Until these were introduced from Honshu, the main island of Japan, there had been no such larch trees in Hokkaido. The reasons why larch trees were chosen for the species to be planted in the Pilot Forest were that primarily they grew very fast, and that their seedlings were easily available and more resistant to cold than Sakhalin fir or Ezo spruce trees. However, Large trees are vulnerable to damage by rats. In order to overcome that weak point, the bush was burnt to drive away rats before the ground clearance, and mice were prevented from entering into the site with ditches dug in the ground. After a while, a new rat poison and new method for aerial spraying by helicopter were developed and reduced the risk of rat damage even more, as well as diseases such as shoot blight. Moreover, precautions against fire were especially important. Fire breaks were placed for the prevention of fire spread, and an observation tower for fire detection was built. Especially in spring, when fires were easy to occur, the monitoring system for the fire precaution was strengthened. After all these efforts, the larch trees have grown steadily and vigorously. The planting finished in 1966, and the creation of the pilot forest required a 10-year total of 440,000 workers in the end. The pilot forest, afforested on an unprecedented scale, considered as an epoch-making achievement in coal district forestry in Japan, gained attention as an object of studies from the early stages. The management committees for the pilot forest, comprised of experts in forestry, were held twice on the 20th and 40th anniversaries of the creation. Particularly in 1996, as the 40th anniversary, the committee decided on the principles of the pilot forest as follows. 1. Forest management to enhance biodiversity and watershed protection. 2. Sustainable timber supply and efficient harvesting. And 3. Further contribution to the local society as a model of coal district forestry. These are still inherited even today. Sakhalin fir and Japanese spruce seedlings, as those of indigenous species, have been planted partly under thinned larch trees to create multi-storied stands for the purpose of promoting the public functions. Now, the multi-storied forest spreads over 23% of the total forest area. The afforestation of the pilot forest greatly contributed even to the restoration of natural environment in the local region. As the forest restored, a variety of animals, such as Ezo red foxes and Japanese cranes, were attracted to live there. Besides, as the water quality of the Bakambushi River had improved with less inflow of soil, the cultivation of oysters in Lake Akechi was restored. The whole area of Bakambushi Marsh was designated as a forest reserve, and almost all other areas in the pilot forest were designated as protection forests to protect the rich natural environment. In addition, a part of the forest reserve, which was registered under the Ramsar Convention, is recognized as the site which holds extremely precious natural environment as a habitat for waterfowls. Larch timbers have the property of twisting badly when drying. For that reason, they had been utilized in mostly simple ways as chip materials, mine posts, scaffolding poles, crating materials, and pallet materials. Besides, because of their beautiful grain, some of them had been used for interior and exterior materials. However, in recent years, they have overcome the initial disadvantage of twisting by the improvement of the technology for processing timber into plywood or glued laminated wood. And they have become known as strong material, easy to process. Now the demand for the large timbers as building materials are rapidly increasing. Wooden buildings are likely to be used more widely across Japanese society in the future. There are growing possibilities to be utilized in the future for the trees which have overcome their predecessors' repeated difficulties. In the pilot forest, we are working on the continuing production of large timbers for the future. Since about 80% of the large trees are now between the ages of 46 and 55, we have to convert the forest age structure into a balanced one to produce large timbers stably into the future. At the same time, we have a plan to divide tree cutting areas into smaller sections and disperse them in order to mitigate the environmental changes in the marshes caused by forest management practices. We are also planning to turn the artificial forest adjoining the marshland into natural forest in the future. You can witness the abundant large forest, surrounded by the natural beauty and full of precious biodiversity. This forest is beautiful and majestic, presenting different appearances in all seasons. The sustainable timber supply and natural environment protection in this forest will be achieved as a model of cold district forestry. And then, with the preservation of this landscape as a symbol of the region and respect for the history of our predecessors' challenges, forestry will continue into the future.